So about 2 months ago, we got on TikTok and we started posting, and like our maybe sixth or seventh video, it just went completely viral. And it got 1.5 million views. Every time I would refresh the page, we'd have another like 1 to 5,000 views. Literally, it's like climbing that fast. Where it's like refresh, look at it, refresh, 5,000 more, 5,000 more, 5,000 more.
And like, what's going through your head as you're seeing these views come in?
It was the biggest rush of my entire life.
That's John Wheeler, medical spa CEO, business strategist, and marketing guru. In our conversation, we got to hear about how he built up and sold his first DJ business, only to be thrust headfirst into the beauty industry as the CEO of the Esthetics Center. He shares insights on how he's built his exceptional team, all the while challenging the status quo in their viral marketing efforts on social media. Here's the one-of-a-kind John Wheeler. Let's hop right into kind of the beginning of your passion applied to business. And what was that business, and how did you get into it?
Yeah, so my first business was when I was a kid selling home run pies. I don't know if you remember those to my classmates. And but I know that's not your question. But I was pretty proud of that little business. You know, we'd buy them for like 10 cents each, sell them for like 25 cents each.
That's like the common thread amongst all the entrepreneurs we've talked to. I feel like they just start so young with that idea of selling something like that.
Yeah, and that's actually when I interview people to work for me. That's one of the things I ask them is, what was your first job? And yeah, I think that is a commonality with entrepreneurs. It's just scratching that itch at a young age. But my first real business that I owned was in 2012. My wife and I had just gotten married, moved out to Michigan, went to grad school. She was in nursing school. And it was so weird because every job I'd ever interviewed for, I had gotten, like, not to brag, but it just wasn't an issue. But we got married and moved there, and I interviewed for all these jobs. I just couldn't get a job. And so one day I was, like I said, we just got married. My mother-in-law was visiting, and we went to Guitar Center because I'm like a music nerd, and I'll just go there and like hang out for a few hours and like play the drums and play the guitars and play the synths or whatever. And she looked at me, she's like, "You should be a DJ." And I hadn't really thought of it, but like I said, we just got married and weddings are super expensive. And kind of the whole time we were in that process, I was like, I could do this. And even like the night of the wedding, I was going to the DJ a lot, like, "Hey, could you play this song next?" And I'd been in bands my whole life. I'd been a worship leader for quite a few years as well and had structured set lists a lot. So not to get lost in the weeds, but that was my first business, was a wedding DJ company. Started it in 2012, ended up, we turned it into one of the largest wedding DJ companies in southwestern Michigan. And I was able to sell it in 2017, which was awesome. And in the meantime, I read a book called The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. And what's cool about the wedding industry, especially in Michigan, because it's so cold half the year, and then it's perfect the other half of the year. So the wedding season lasts literally half of the year, 6 months, May through October. So for half the year, my wife and I were able to travel, do school when we were in school, but then we're also able to like backpack through Southeast Asia and like book brides and be like living on a normal, healthy wage while living in Vietnam and Thailand. And so that was kind of my first experience with business.
So in terms of like your ability to build that brand, were you reading other books and like applying them to your business?
Definitely. So that's something that my grandma, who I'm very close with, she's 100 now, but you would never know it. She's really an amazing lady. She instilled in me at a young age is she just would always tell me, never stop learning. And that's literally like, if I had kind of a secret to my success, it's that I've never stopped learning and I've always stayed hungry. And so it's just crazy. Like because I have my master's in divinity, and anybody that has gone to school knows the way that they teach you is they have you read books. Like most of your learning is through books that they assign you. And so if you're just somebody that's hungry and you're willing to learn, what I tell people, and I've heard things allude to this, if you're willing to read 20 books on a subject, that's the equivalent of a bachelor's degree. If you're willing to read 40 to 50 books on a subject, that's the equivalent of a master's degree. And let alone throw in podcasts and magazine and journal articles into that. And you can really master something if you're just willing to put in the time and spend maybe $400 on books. If you're just hungry, you can blow formal education out of the water.
Yeah. So true. Yeah. And especially in this day and age, we have access to so much information on the internet.
Right.
And there's so many online courses. You can really, the sky's the limit.
You also mentioned how like those are some of the qualities that you look for in building up a team.
Yes.
That it's that grit, but it's also that sort of curiosity, right? That that is founded at a very young age. Some people have this insatiable appetite to learn and discover more and more and more. And that's what fuels the decisions that they make.
Yeah.
Whereas other people, I think it's a little bit challenging to like be motivated to pick up the book, or be motivated to listen to the podcast again and again and again.
Yeah.
Because they want to be told kind of what to do without having to like be the one to make the decisions after learning about everything,
Right.
Yeah, I think like learning about something is one thing, but applying it.
What I have found is if you're operating in your passion, you can't help but just voraciously learn. Like I, in the business I'm at now, which I know we'll get to, but like I when I was in school, theology books were always kind of a little bit of a drag for me to read. Like I didn't love it. Like I could read them and enjoy them, but it wasn't like I can't stop consuming this material. And then in the role I'm in now of business, like I just can't stop. And then I remember one day we had to let our COO, who handled all of our financials day to day, go, and I took over all the money. Had zero experience managing a corporate budget, let alone $3 million, and just like devoured a bunch of books and you do whatever it takes. So sometimes it's appetite. Sometimes it's putting yourself in a situation that you have to learn in order to succeed. And that's actually how I started my first company. Was I had never DJ'd. I didn't own any equipment. I posted an ad on Craigslist that said, I'll DJ your wedding for X amount. Ended up booking 30 weddings. No clue how to DJ. I had it's been a while now, but it was like $15,000 to $20,000 in deposits for people saying, I want you to DJ my wedding. Here's the date. I'm going to lock you in.
That's amazing.
I had no clue how to do it. I couldn't sleep.
What did your ad say? I mean, it must have been very compelling.
I mean, it was just like...
Or were people just not doing that at that time? Like posting ads for that kind of thing?
So I was coming in pretty like affordable for what most DJs would charge.
Okay.
And then if you're able to really hit the pain points and say, I'm not this, or I will solve this problem for you, people just resonate with it. And so
what was that for you?
Cheesy, corny, like embarrassing. So there's just such a stigma about wedding DJs that we like, I can't say we anymore because I'm not one anymore, but that you're going to be embarrassed or they're going to play lame music. So really just went after, hey, you're going to be proud of your DJ, and 5 years down the road, people are going to ask you, who the heck was your DJ? Because I've never been to a wedding that's that amazing with the music and the dancing and all that. So that's how I started my first company, and it forced me to learn how to DJ. It's the stakes that were attached to it. And I took a course online, learned how to do it. First wedding rolled around, and it went just fine. And in fact, the venue made me their like recommended DJ that they sent all their brides to.
So what caused you to give that up and change directions?
I was super lonely. So I was basically, my whole team was independent. And so I kind of felt like a solopreneur. I loved the business building side of it, but I hated the wedding days. And it just was like, I was like, I'm so done.
So you finished, you sold.
Yeah.
And then what was the next step?
So my wife and I went to the Bethel School of Supernatural Ministry in Redding, started in 2017. I did 1 year, she did 2 years. And that's where we really learned how to lead people. And we just really took some time to press into our faith. We're both people of faith. And while we were there, actually toward the beginning of the school year, my father-in-law called me and he said, hey, I'm starting a new plastic surgery center in El Dorado Hills, and I want you to do the marketing for it. And so he basically said, I saw what you did with Kaleidoscope Events and kind of the business that you built, and I could really use your skill set to help me market this thing remotely. So you wouldn't have to come here to El Dorado Hills. It would just be basically posting on Facebook and Instagram. And that was the start of my time with, at the time we were called Rice Cosmetic Surgery and Medical Spa. Now we're called the Esthetics Center. But that was really my start with that company.
Was he specific about what he was looking for, or was it more like, this is the current condition of the business, we need to get some traction on wherever we can get it on social media, we have no presence?
It was about as ambiguous as you could imagine, which I love. I don't do well with micromanagers, and I think that's why he and I get along so well in our working relationship, is he's just like 100% medical, and I'm 100% business. And so at that time, obviously I wasn't business, I was just marketing. He was basically like, hey, do whatever you want to do. We'll figure out a way to pay for it, but just build it up. And that's what I did. And so a lot of our ads in those early days, they were doing a lot of magazine ads. If you're local here, like Style Magazine, Sacramento Magazine. And we had 11 followers on Facebook. And I want to say we had about 65 followers on Instagram. And we'd posted maybe 4 times, like the secretary, receptionist had posted 4 times. I don't think ever on Facebook, maybe once.
What year was that?
That was, it was actually September 15th, 2017.
Great memory.
Yeah, I'm weird with dates.
I love that.
Yeah.
So what was your strategy going into that? I mean, you saw this like blank canvas.
Yeah.
And how did you mold it into growing a story for the Esthetics Center and building the brand, marketing, all of that?
Yeah. Well, I had never done any marketing. I know that sounds weird because I said I built this huge wedding company. My philosophy was that marketing is a tax on the mediocre. And so I had never done any marketing. And so how I built Kaleidoscope was I just went to every wedding venue, built a really good relationship with them, and then I just really tried to just crush it every time we were at that venue and find out what would make them feel honored. And so they were like, honestly, just keep things really smooth and end on time. Like, we don't want to stay late. The cops usually come if you go late for like noise pollution or whatever they call it. So I knew that if I wanted to really make these people happy, I would end 1 minute early every single time. No matter, I would have people come up to me like, hey, I'll give you $100 to play just one more song. It's like, no, because I knew that pipeline was so valuable, but all that to say I never did any marketing. So I had to learn a bunch about marketing. Like, I had no idea what I was doing. And so again, just dove in head first, podcast, books.
Do you have any favorite podcasts? Kind of
I have a favorite book. I do have.
Okay, I mean specifically for marketing.
Specifically for marketing, my favorite book, I would honestly consider it like the equivalent of a bachelor's in marketing. People that have a bachelor's in marketing are going to hate me for saying that, but Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller.
Yes.
That is like, I feel like that's like the book. And I've read a lot of them, and I think that one's quite good. It's just around the idea that you're the guide and your customer's the hero, which was something that in our space was so rare because all these plastic surgeons and nurses and doctors, which is funny to say nurses, right? Because usually nurses are like the, really humble servants, helpers. Mm-hmm. I work in a field of a lot of like, kind of like more hero-centric nurses. And it was just kind of a revolutionary idea for us, where it's like, hey, it's about you, it's not about us. And just inviting our customers into a story. And that story for us, which our brand script is all about, is we take people from maybe not feeling totally confident in the way they look to confidence. And that's where our tagline came from, live confidently. So that was a big piece for us, is building a story brand. And then everything else kind of flowed out from there.
Can you tell us a little bit about the transition from your role as a marketer for the Esthetics Center to now what you do so much more at this point, right?
A little bit more.
Okay.
Yeah. No, a lot more.
What is your current title or
CEO.
role? Yeah.
Yeah. So really, I learned. It's funny because I was a pastor for 7 years, and I was always like a lone wolf kind of guy. And then I moved out to Michigan and was a volunteer pastor, and I just fell in love with team. I built this team. I realized like that was my passion. And so then we went to Bethel School of Ministry, learned really how to build culture and what that looks like. And so around the time when I was doing the marketing, I started to really get a vision for the Aesthetics Center. And I would even like come on site every couple months and do like a culture building session where I would talk about like our culture. And at the time, it was a very toxic culture. It's funny because now we have such a healthy culture, and it's like everybody's just like really super close, and there's as little drama as you could possibly fathom, especially in the beauty industry. That's kind of rare. And so I would like roll out our brand script and make it into a PowerPoint presentation and share it with the team, which at the time was like 6 people. So it sounds a lot sexier than it was. And then we decided that we wanted to have a company retreat. And so there was a gal at the time who was like the office manager. And we started planning the company retreat. And I was like planning the whole thing. And that's kind of what I do is I plan events because that was my life for so long. And so I gave her like the keynote session, like she was going to kick off our time together. She had an hour and a half to really share where we've been and where we're going. And we were building out this new location and what life was going to look like as a business. And I had these other kind of less significant ones, but I really gave her like the bread and butter of that retreat. So, and I spent like a ton of time on my talks because I really had a vision for the company. So we get there up to North Lake Tahoe. It's Friday night, and she prepared nothing. And she talked for like maybe 7 minutes just off the cuff. And then we had like an hour that we had to fill. And to me, that was really the turning point, was like, hey, here's this dichotomy of somebody that's leading that has no vision for where we're going, isn't really passionate about what we're doing in the sense of like driving the bus. And then there was me that it was like everything to me, where it was like, hey, like we're going to climb this mountain. Here's what life's going to look like. And it was just really a dichotomy between leading and not leading, you know? And so that's where it started, was that retreat, I feel like. And then she also had a full-time job at Marshall Hospital and wasn't willing to like jump over full-time. And I was. And so that's where it really started, was I became the leader. And now I'm the chief executive officer, which is pretty cool.
Can you speak to some of the early successes that you had and how the team sort of reacted to those successes?
I can't take a bunch of credit for actually like being the guy that posted our way to where we're at now. I can take credit for building the culture, casting the vision, and sharing my expertise with our team that we have now.
So when you hired your social media marketer, what was that conversation like when you were wanting to provide some vision for her so that she could kind of run with it, right?
Yeah. I would rather like do 1,000 other things than capture content. It's just not my passion, but Katrina is amazing at it, and it like feeds her soul. And so we're just totally like complementary. And that's what's funny is, Kevin, you keep using the word creative. I'm not a creative in the conventional sense of the word. Like when most people think, and that was something that I really struggled with for a really long time. Like, that label. And I was just always like, I want to be a creative. Like, I wish I was more creative. And what I've realized is I'm actually very creative, but not in the sense of like sitting down and drawing a photo or drawing
Wow.
sitting down.
Exactly. I know what you're saying.
That's how uncreative I am. I don't even know what it's called.
I don't know how to draw a photo. That's my problem.
Trying for years.
So like sitting down and drawing a picture or graphic design or even like, I was in a band for a long time, as I know you were as well, like even like songwriting.
Yeah.
I'm not that type of a creative, but what I've realized is I'm very creative when it comes to building out structures and businesses and seeing something where there's nothing And literally, like, I don't know if you guys ever watch Property Brothers. One of my favorite things about Property Brothers is how they can just walk through this rundown, old, crappy house and be like, kitchen should go here. This wall gets knocked out. We're adding windows here, wall to wall slider here. And it's like the person that they're walking through the house with is always like, what? Like,
Casting vision.
yeah, like how do you see that? All I see is this rundown, shabby chic 1970s high pile carpet house. That's a creative in business, is somebody that can like look at a business that's struggling or non-existent and say, boom, this is what we're going to do to build it, and then bring people around him or her that can execute on that vision.
Yeah.
I love that you just talked all about that, because I think it's so important for people to realize that you don't have to be a creative in the conventional sense of the word. And I think everybody was made to create something. We just don't always know what that thing is. And I think that sometimes, yeah, you can feel like you want to be creative, but you're not an artist, you're not a singer. Like, what are you? And to be able to like figure that out, I feel like just feeds your soul, right?
It does. It does. I thought I was a slacker. And then about a year ago, I sat down and I looked back over the span of my life, and I realized that all of the things that I'm doing now that are valuable and profitable and make me money, I've been doing them for a very long time. So, and we keep hitting on this, but with music, from the time I was 15, I went to a pawn shop, bought a Fender P-Bass, sold it, bought a Epiphone Thunderbird, now I have a Fender Jazz Bass. That band itch, that was exactly what I'm doing now. Like, this is something I've come to terms with lately. I didn't love being in a band for the music or for the girls or whatever. I loved being in a band because it allowed me to build something. Like, my dream wasn't like, I want to write the perfect song. It was like, I want to build this nationwide band that gets to go on tour and play stadiums or play even just local clubs. Like, that's what excited me about being in a band. And that was a skill set that I was like really honed in on at the age of 15. And so, yeah, like looking back, it's been like kind of a lifelong thing.
You just said that you hired somebody that helped with like your brand story.
We're undergoing a rebrand right now. So that's why we're doing it.
And why are you doing that? Why are you rebranding? Just curious.
Yeah, so when I created our website, I made it on Squarespace, which was not a skill set that I had, but I learned how to do it, and I'm sure you're probably a lot better at that than I am. But so we really made our brand because we were on a tight deadline, and we had to just get a website out there, and there wasn't a ton of like thought and care that went into our brand. And I really didn't know anything about the industry when I made the website, because that was a time where I was just doing the marketing. And of course, if you're going to market a company, you need a website. So I had to make the website. And so now, 3 years later, actually 2 years later, I just feel like there's so much more identity and DNA in our company. And I know a lot more about the landscape and all of our kind of competitors. And I just feel a lot more equipped to make a thoughtful brand that's going to resonate with people. So that's why.
And when you say brand, what does that entail? What other sort of visual components?
So right now we're undergoing this change from being like a lifestyle brand, so like sexy girl in the woods. Now we're going to be more of like really cropped in on the face, living confidently, studio shots, like clean, modern, bright, crisp. No more lifestyle, if that makes sense. Sexy is going to be off-brand for us. That's a big change. So a lot of like smoldering in the woods. And now it's going to be like, Bria laughing with the camera really close to her face, showing like a natural makeup, not a lot of makeup, carefree, confident.
Yeah,
So,
it also fits a lot with pushing a more authentic perspective to what living confidently means.
that's really our word that we're going after, is that authenticity. So we just feel like it's an industry that's so fake, and that's kind of what we're doing. Is a lot of the conversations that Allie and I have been having is how can we like, what's our flag that we're going to plant in the ground? Like, what stand are we going to take? Where it's like, hey, this is us. And we don't know what everybody else is doing. We don't really care what everybody else is doing. But like, this is who we are. That women have been hypersexualized. They've been objectified. And we're not going to stand for that. We're not doing plastic surgery and fillers and Botox and lasers to get women ready for the cover of Playboy magazine or Maxim. We're doing this so that if a woman's a mom, or if a man's a dad, or if she's a teacher or a doctor or nurse, whatever the heck she is, we just want her to live confidently and do whatever she does day to day with confidence. So we're just really turning our back on like sexy and provocative. Not that we've been provocative, but that's really like what we're going after.
You're setting yourself apart. Just the fact that you're being true to your brand
Exactly.
is the most valuable decision that a brand can make, I think, to
Yes.
do that, right? And
Yes.
to be one of a kind and to be confident in that, in those differences that aren't just like trying to keep up with what everyone else is doing.
That they're founded on a conviction of like authenticity, that you already have a live confidently slogan that doesn't itself have to change, but the nature at which it is being communicated can twist and can be even more convicted and even more authentic. So what are some spaces that you have mobilized your team to operate within in terms of marketing, in terms of getting that brand out to new communities?
So about 2 months ago, we got on TikTok and we started posting, and like our maybe 6th or 7th video, it just went completely viral. And it got 1.5 million views. Every time I would refresh the page, we'd have another like 1,000 to 5,000 views. Literally, it's like climbing that fast. Where it's like refresh, look at it, refresh, 5,000 more, 5,000 more, 5,000 more.
And like, what's going through your head as you're seeing these views come in?
It was the biggest rush of my entire life. Like, maybe not my, it was in the top 3.
More than your baby being born.
It was the biggest professional rush
There it is.
of my entire life, because it was like, man, like I've been making content for so long, and like we finally did it. Like I finally made something, or was a part of, and I can't take a ton of credit for it. I didn't film it, I didn't storyboard it, but like my team, I was a part of something that like we made a piece of content that went viral, and it was like the craziest feeling in the world. And
Yeah,
so,
to think that all of those views are people that are seeing
Exactly.
you. They're seeing, or your team, or seeing the brand. Right?
Exactly. And so it hit 1 million views in about 24 hours. And I was really excited. And so then we ended up getting to like maybe 4,000 followers on TikTok, which was cool because
That's huge.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so as it is now, we've been posting 1 to 2 times a day. The last video we posted on Tuesday. We posted on Tuesday night at 6 p.m. and it hit 1 million views by 7 a.m., 11 hours later. Right now, it has either 2.6 or 2.7 million views. And so we have the top video on TikTok for cool sculpting, laser hair removal,
That's huge.
Wait.
all these different hydrofacial, I believe.
So, but you mentioned with the first one that it's like when you actually like posted it, you would never think that it would get the view count that it did.
No.
I mean,
Do you feel like that same way about
yeah?
the other
Are you?
ones?
Do you feel like what's going on? Like, how come it's this is working over on TikTok, or is there some sort of strategy that you feel like
I think that
figuring it
the
out?
big thing to understand if you do marketing or if you're in any way trying to engage with social media is you have to respect the platform. And so you can't, like, it's funny because we'll post the TikTok videos on Instagram
And it's like, yeah, it
and we'll
doesn't
get
work.
like 1,500 views. Literally on a video, they got 2.5 million views on a different platform. Or we'll post something we made for Instagram on Facebook or vice versa, and it just falls totally flat. Where it, like, you'll see this a lot on Facebook. You'll make content for Facebook, post on Instagram and it's like crickets because it doesn't fit the guidelines of Instagram, which is visually appealing content. It's a different demo. You know, it skews younger. Yeah. TikTok skews even younger than Instagram. But anytime that there's a few things that really bother me with what I do with marketing and building a company. One of them is it's only 10-year-olds on TikTok. And anybody that says that doesn't understand social media, and they don't understand social media growth curves. What always happens with social media is it starts out really young, and then what happens? The parents want to watch what their kids are doing, and they want to communicate with their kids, and so they join.
And their kids go somewhere else.
And then a lot of times their kids go somewhere else, or they stay. Like with Instagram, they've stayed.
Right.
So now Instagram is a really good mix of everybody, young and old, because it started young, parents joined, and now everybody's on there. But here's the other thing that happens with social media that I think is really fascinating, is that when a platform is really young, the algorithm is very conducive to growth. And so you remember, let me say again, the algorithm is conducive to growth for the producers of the content. And so you remember, I don't know when you guys signed up for Facebook. I signed up for Facebook when I was in 2009. So I wasn't super early, not super late. I'm sure you guys were probably around the same. It was like when MySpace all of a sudden overnight became super uncool.
Yeah.
And everybody had Facebook. But you remember your timeline on Facebook 10 years ago? It told you everything. It would literally say, it would say, Bria broke up with her boyfriend. Or Bria changed her relationship status to single. Or Bria changed her relationship status to in a relationship. It told you every single little tiny detail about everybody's lives. Why did it do that? Because there wasn't enough content. There wasn't enough content producers to fill up people's timelines. And so in the early days of a platform, the platform shows you every possible thing it can possibly show you, because they need to just fill up the feed so that it's interesting and so you feel like scrolling through it. Now, Instagram, what we have to do, we have to post 2 to 3 times every single day, because their algorithm has tightened up so much that I know if we post 3 times, maybe our followers will see one of those posts. They're the algorithms with a more mature channel tighten up because they don't want to inundate their people with content, especially from a business. Business is at the bottom of the totem pole. People care the least about your business. That's just a fact. They care the most about their friends and their family, and then it's your business.
Right. And even beyond that, the last thing that they want is a business to be advertising to them.
Exactly.
It's
right.
Yep.
So as a business, you have to trick people into, for lack of a better way to put it, but trick people into selling them something in a much more I'm a friend that you're following.
Exactly.
And I just happen to be, which actually fits really, really well with the brand script, right? I'm a guide. I can help you with this problem that you may be having.
Yeah.
As opposed to, buy now or come quick.
And I think that people don't understand the algorithm and how it works with social media. And so what the algorithm is, if I could just speak on this for 10 seconds, what the algorithm really is a sample size. And so Facebook will show your post to 20 people, and they want to see how that 20 people react. And so if Facebook shows your post to 20 people and nobody comments or likes, nobody is going to see that post ever again unless you boost it, which I hate boosting posts. I think it's let's just create really good content that we don't have to pay to boost. But if Facebook shows your post to 20 people and they all share it, that's oh my gosh, this is the best post that's ever been made. We're going to show this to 100 more people and see how they react. And if those 100 more people share it, comment, then Facebook knows this is a really useful post that probably everybody will want to see.
So where can people follow the Esthetics Center and that sort of journey? Aestheticscenter.com, right?
Yes. So aestheticscenter.com, Instagram.com/aestheticscenter, Facebook.com/aestheticscenter, TikTok, just look up Aesthetics Center, and you'll find us.
This has been amazing. We are so blessed. Thank you for talking with us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
It was an honor.
Yeah.
And it's great spending some time with you guys.
Hey, thanks for listening. Don't be a stranger. Hit the subscribe button and let us know how you enjoyed the episode in a rating on the podcast app or in the comments below if you're watching. And remember, you're one of a kind.